The following presentation is brought to you by Discovery Channel School, a leading provider of quality educational resources that help teachers bring the world to their students.
This is TLC Elementary School, a place where teachers of kindergarten through 6th grade can find high-quality documentary programs chosen to inform and delight students. Tape the show every week and build a comprehensive video library of exceptional material designed to complement your classroom teaching. On this edition of TLC Elementary School, visit animals in the wild. Learn what is similar and what is different about some very interesting animals. First, find out if you've been wrong about snakes and learn how to correct your snake mistakes. Then, travel to the wilderness of the sea and learn about the real reputations of sharks and whales. Find out how dogs and cats developed and who they're related to. Finally, take a closer look at 3 great apes: orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees, and compare the unique way that each lives its own life. Stay tuned for classroom activities right after the programs, and don't miss important resources for educators on the bulletin board immediately following TLC Elementary School. Segment 1: Snake Mistakes.
Snakes. Just the sound of their name gets your attention. People are afraid of snakes because they can be dangerous. Some are dangerous, but many aren't. Thinking that all snakes are dangerous is a snake mistake. And you must avoid making any snake mistakes. Some people think snakes have stingers in their tails. This is not true. It's a snake mistake. Snakes can be tricky, but the truth is, some snakes are big fakes. This one pretends its tail is a worm. The frog believes it is, and when it goes for the tail, the frog becomes the dinner instead of the diner. And other snakes pretend to be something they're not. This coral snake is very dangerous. This false coral snake is harmless, but it fakes out its enemies because it looks a lot like its dangerous cousin. You can avoid this mistake by learning a rhyme. Red touching black, venom lack. Red touching yellow kills a fellow. This Cape Cobra wants to look threatening to these meerkats. So it flattens its head and spreads it out to look bigger. It's a big bluffing act, and the meerkats are bluffing right back. Their trick is to form a group so they seem even bigger than the snake. If you think snakes are slimy, you are making a snake mistake. Snakes have dry, scaly skin. Sometimes their shimmering colors make them look slippery, but they're not covered with slimy mucus like fish or amphibians. Snakes are covered with scales, lined up in rows. They overlap like the shingles on a roof. Another neat thing about snakes is how they shed their old skin. It's called molting. When this happens, their dead skin peels off. To get started, snakes need a rough object to rub up against. They crawl right out of their old skin, usually shedding almost the whole thing in one big piece. Young snakes who are growing fast shed their skin a lot, some every 20 days. The scales are made of keratin, like your fingernails. Snakes have good vision, but they can't close their eyes because their eyelids don't move. They have a scale that protects their eye. It's called a spectacle. Usually it's clear, but when it's time to shed, the spectacle gets hard and cloudy, and it comes off too. Every time a rattlesnake sheds, it adds a new segment to its tail. But that doesn't mean you can tell how old it is, because segments get broken off a lot. If you think it's easy moving around without arms and legs, try it. Most snakes squeeze and release their muscles from head to toe so they can crawl. People used to think they were walking on their ribs, but that's wrong. Don't make this snake mistake. Snakes move in different ways. This is a sidewinder. Most of its body doesn't even touch the ground. It's a good way to move across loose sand. This corn snake climbs by holding part of its body still, reaching with another, and doing it all again. Others swim. Snakes that are good swimmers can be helpless on land. Snakes that live in trees drop themselves and sort of glide to a landing without getting hurt. They look like they can fly, but snakes can't fly, so don't fall for that. You've seen snakes move in different ways. But did you know certain snakes can move in more ways than one? Some snakes can be pretty fast as 8 miles an hour. But they're slowpokes compared to humans. If a snake has fangs, it has poison in them. But most snakes don't have fangs. If you thought most had fangs, you know what you were making. This man just got bitten by a snake. But he's not worried because he knows the snake doesn't have any poison in its teeth. Snake poison is called venom. This man knows what it feels like to be bitten by a bushmaster, a very poisonous snake.
You feel a great deal of immediate pain. It's like a pair of hot needles combined with a vice and a burning sensation. This pain has been compared to burn by fire and is one of the most terrible pains you can endure as it begins to spread, because you can feel actually the poisons moving up your arm. You can feel the swelling, the increase.
If you ever do get bitten by a poisonous snake, get to the hospital. What you need is a bit more venom from the kind of snake that bit you in the first place. It's called antivenom. To make it, people actually collect venom from poisonous snakes by making them bite a rubber lid like this. Some snakes can fold their fangs back against the roof of their mouth when they're not using them. Not all poisonous snakes need to bite to use their venom. Some spray it at the eyes of their enemies, blinding them. This red cobra can spray you from 8 feet away. Snakes can eat some pretty big things. Sometimes it looks like they've taken on more than they can handle. But don't be fooled. Their jaws have elastic connections, like rubber bands. Their bones move, so they can actually swallow something bigger than their own head. As the food moves into the body, it can expand too. Most snakes' teeth point backwards. They're like hooks that hold the prey so it can't escape. Snakes can move their teeth one side at a time. One side holds while the other moves up and re-bites the prey. The snake's jaws sort of walk over the prey and pull it in. Some snakes use their teeth to hold prey while they crush it. For poisonous snakes, the bite is enough. Snake venom is no joke. It's a very strong poison. It can take a few minutes to start working, but then it destroys tissue, it paralyzes, and it can kill. Snakes are reptiles, which means they're cold-blooded. But even though snakes may look cool, they only feel cool if they've been in a cool place. If they've been in the sun, they can feel as warm as a mammal. Cold-blooded just means their body temperature adjusts to their environment. Snakes use sunlight and shade to keep a comfortable body temperature that's about the same all the time, usually warmer than the air. When a snake is moving, its body temperature can be higher than most mammals. When it's not active or dormant, its body temperature will be about the same as the environment, but it'll never be colder. Snakes are tough, but they can't live in very cold places. They'd freeze solid. There's a limit to what a snake can take. Snakes don't hear sound like people do. Their skin, muscles, and bones can feel some sound vibrations in the air, but they sense sound better if it travels through the ground they're resting on. This cobra is not charmed by the sound of the snake charmer's music. It may feel the tapping of his foot, but the cobra sways because it follows the movement of the flute, which is threatening to the snake. It's right up in the snake's face. If the musician stopped moving, the cobra would probably close its hood and fall back into its container, or try to crawl away. Most cobras are actually shy. Snakes have other senses that are different from ours. Some see heat with special heat receptors that sense small differences in temperature. This way they can find prey at night. Snakes don't stick their tongues out to be rude. The flicking of a snake's tongue is scary, but that's not why they do it either. Snakes do this so they can smell. The tongue flicks out, picks up odor particles and carries them to the roof of the mouth where they smell them. Snakes have a sneaky reputation. But if you think they all want to sneak up and attack you, you're making a big snake mistake. Sure, they're sly when they're hunting, and they'll bite to get food. But give a snake a break. It doesn't have any arms or legs, and it has to do something to eat and defend itself. If you get too close, many snakes will try to warn you if you let them. Some make noises like this one that scrapes its scales together. Some will hiss as a warning. Rattlesnakes will vibrate their rattles about 50 times per second. This is a warning. If it really wanted to bite you, it wouldn't rattle at all. The best thing you can do is listen, watch for the warning signs, and wear long clothes. If a snake bites your clothes, it's no big deal. The truth is, most snakes just want to escape. Snakes are mostly quiet, secretive animals that mind their own business. Try to imagine what it's like to be a snake. Snakes don't want to be stepped on, so watch your step. They don't want to be surprised, so watch if you stick your hand in dark places where you might find one. Don't be afraid. Be smart. If you know about snake types and snake bites, you won't get into snake fights. This is how you help erase snake mistakes.
To complement snake mistakes, TLC Elementary School suggests the following activity. How do snakes bear their young? Are they born live, or do they hatch from eggs? Or both? As a class, guess about the answer. Then read and research to find out. What were your snake mistakes? Segment 2, Sharks and Whales.
We all play games. Usually the goal is to win by being smart or lucky or both. When someone is very good at a game like cards, we might call them a card shark.
I'm just talented.
What we mean is the player is very good at winning.
You're picking around.
Sharks are winners because they're very good at survival. They're mostly loners who've adapted to living almost everywhere in the oceans. They were around even before dinosaurs. They have a lot of special features that help them survive. Sharks are fish, which means they live only in water and they're cold-blooded. Sharks are tough. They have strong digestive juices in their stomachs. Some will swallow almost anything. They've been known to swallow tennis shoes, medieval armor, nuts and bolts, tin cans, life jackets, and ammunition shells. Sharks have eaten these things, but for food, they prefer sea animals. Some don't see very well. They see mostly motions and shadows. But all sharks have other ways of finding their prey. They can pick up on very slight sounds. If a fish is moving, even a little, it creates enough sound vibrations for a shark to know it's there. On top of their super hearing, sharks have sensitive spots on their snouts that look like the pores on your skin. Inside the pores, little jelly-filled sacs help sharks sense an animal buried in the sand or an animal with an open wound. These sacs actually detect small amounts of electricity given off from the animals or their wounds. As a shark gets closer to its meal, its powerful sense of smell takes over. The smelling sense is so strong, it can pick up on just one molecule of blood in over 1 million molecules of water. Many sharks can extend their jaws forward to snatch their prey. The teeth and jaws on sharks are impressive weapons. Sharks lose a lot of their razor-sharp teeth, as many as 6,000 every year, usually in the flesh of their prey. But losing teeth is not a problem for sharks. Lost teeth are replaced by new ones that shift into position, sometimes within 24 hours. Actually, the shark's whole body is covered with thousands of tiny teeth, called skin teeth. The skin teeth are pointed backwards to help smooth the water over a shark's body so it can swim faster. Like amphibians, sharks feel slimy because their bodies are covered with a protective layer of mucus. Not all sharks are alike. There's a lot of variety. This one actually uses its fins to walk on the seafloor. Sharks have their young in different ways. Some deposit a fertilized egg sac on the ocean floor. Its strong, leathery case gives shelter to the growing embryo. Others give birth to live pups. In some, eggs first hatch inside the mothers. The pup's spots help it blend in with the ocean floor. No matter how they're born, sharks receive no parental care. They're on their own right from the start. Most sharks are not vicious hunters of people. The largest shark in the ocean is also the most gentle. The whale shark can grow more than 50 feet long and weigh more than 20 tons, but it feeds on some of the smallest sea creatures. It's called a filter feeder because it eats tiny plankton that it filters out of the water as it passes through its mouth and back out of its gill slits. Nurse sharks run their feelers along the sand looking for food that lives on the ocean floor. When they find what they're looking for, nurse sharks suck their meals out of the shell with a suction power equal to 12 vacuum cleaners. Lobster's a bit trickier. The shark keeps bumping it to keep it off balance until the lobster's worn out. Then the shark slams it on the seafloor to remove its meaty tail. Not all sharks go to so much trouble. Some will snap up anything that gets too close to their jaws. But of the 370 kinds of sharks, only about 30 are known to attack humans. One is the hammerhead. Another is the tiger shark. Many of these attacks are actually cases of mistaken identity. To a shark, a person on a surfboard can look a lot like a seal. When he was younger, Rodney Fox was attacked by the most dangerous of sharks, a great white. It's the kind of shark that was featured in the movie Jaws. After the attack, it took nearly 500 stitches to put him back together again. But instead of avoiding sharks, he's fascinated by them. From the safety of a cage, he loves to meet with his powerful friends, who he says have very different personalities. More and more, though, the sharks aren't showing up. He's concerned that the great whites may be dying off. One reason there aren't many great whites is because some people hunt them and kill them. The great white's great strength and tough reputation is the very reason that some people want to hunt them. Although sharks as a whole are some of the great survivors, not all types will win in the game of survival. While the movie Jaws presented the great white shark as a bad guy, Free Willy presented orca whales as friendly. Orcas have never been known to attack humans, but they aren't called killer whales for nothing. They're the only whales that eat other whales, and they don't mind going out of their way to capture their prey. No other whales eat mammals like the orcas do. And there are at least 75 different kinds of whales. All whales are mammals, so they're warm-blooded and they breathe air like we do. But whales are the only mammals that live their whole life in the water. And they're the only mammals without hair. Some live mostly alone. Others live in families called pods. Pods are sometimes led by females and can have 5 to 100 members. Some whales, like the orcas, stay with the family group all their lives. The closest bond seems to be between mother and calf. Usually, a single calf is born. It can swim right away and often heads right to the surface for its first breath. The calf will nurse on its mother's rich milk for about 8 months to 2 years. Whales talk to each other in their own languages. Some hunt together. Some play together. And even if they don't look like it, all of them are related to each other. The largest whales are also the largest animals on Earth. These whales have no teeth. They have rows of plates called baleen that hang like window blinds from their upper jaw. The baleen is made of keratin, just like your fingernails are. By swimming with their mouths open, these huge baleen whales feed on the world's smallest animals, called zooplankton. They scoop up their food and seawater by the ton. Then they close their mouths, raise their tongues, push the water out, and trap the food on the inside. Whales are huge sea creatures. This 737 airplane is shorter than some blue whales. The blue whale's heart is the size of this car, and the whale weighs 6 times more than the plane. A whale's skin feels like smooth, wet rubber. No other mammal has a smoother covering. Sometimes sea creatures attach themselves to this smooth surface. They're called parasites, which means they live off the whale and don't give back anything in return. Some of these creatures don't harm the whale, but others feed on the whale's flesh. Whale lice have claws that cling and jaws that pierce the whale's flesh. They can be so irritating, the whale will work hard to get them off. All whales get parasites. Beluga whales also develop a coating of yellow-green algae. Once a year, belugas swim to shallow water in the icy Arctic. They roll and scratch against the gravel and sand so they can shed their old skin. Getting rid of old skin is called molting. And even though you can't see it, you're molting a little bit all the time yourself. But belugas have to pay attention while they're molting. Polar bears will eat beluga whales if they can catch them. After a few days, belugas return to their feeding grounds in the open seas. Their fresh white skin is scarred in some places, but the parasites and algae are gone. Smaller whales, like the beluga, can live to be 30 years old. Large whales, like the baleen, can live as long as 80 years. As with other animals, not all whales live until old age. For hundreds of years, many whales were killed for the oil in their bodies. It was used as lamp fuel and to grease machine parts. The baleen from their mouths was used to make umbrellas. Their bodies were used to make soap, wax, margarine, fertilizers, cosmetics, and to make food for pets and farm animals. We hunted so many whales it looked like we might kill them all. But things have changed. We feel different about whales now. We know they are smart, that they can imitate. Today, people are more likely to watch and admire whales than to kill them. These days, whales and people are learning more about each other than ever.
To complement sharks and whales, TLC Elementary School suggests the following activity. There are 370 kinds of sharks. They live in many different parts of the oceans. As a class, choose a few sharks you're interested in, such as the hammerhead, the nurse shark, and the great white. Design a poster for each that shows where it lives in the oceans, what depth it lives in, and what it eats. Many whales have intricate communication systems. The sounds they make are their own languages, and they differ from family to family. Scientists are trying to locate the family pod of Keiko, the orca whale from Free Willy, by matching his special sounds with other orcas. Make a list of special words or sayings used by people in your family or town. As a class, compare these differences in language and discuss their meanings. Segment 3. Dogs and Cats.
There are hundreds of different kinds of dogs. They don't look very much alike. But if you look at their similarities, you can see their common ancestor. There's actually a strong family resemblance. Dogs share our food, our homes, and in some houses, our beds. But long before dogs became our best friends, they roamed the wild in packs. Wild wolves were untamed and could be dangerous to humans. They sometimes hunted for the same food. Humans and wolves were competitors, but for some reason, some of them began to live together. Those wolves that kept to themselves continued to look and act like wild wolves. But as the generations continued, the wolves that lived with humans became different from their wild relatives. Just like you tend to be like your parents, puppies tend to be like theirs. For a long time now, we've been producing dogs for their special traits. This is called breeding. When two good herding dogs have puppies, their puppies are usually good herders too. This Mongolian four-eyed dog helps people protect their livestock from wild animals. We say this dog has 4 eyes because above its real eyes are tan markings that look like 2 more eyes. Looking like you have 4 eyes can be very frightening to your enemy. Some dogs have special senses. This beagle has a unique sense of smell and very good hearing. He helps his owner find hidden termites that could damage houses. When he locates the bugs, he scratches the area. He's almost always right.
Good boy.
Other dogs, like this Shih Tzu, have special looks. There are giants, like the Great Dane, and dwarfs, like the Chihuahua. But dogs produced for appearance inherit more than specific looks. They can also inherit certain health problems, like too many teeth in the small mouth of bulldogs, or the skin problems of the Shar-Pei. It's not always easy for dogs to live in our world. Their ears are very sensitive to sounds which can be too loud for them. And some sounds that seem beautiful to us sometimes don't sound so good to a dog. All dogs have a very good sense of smell. Their smelling sense is 100 times more powerful than ours, so they can follow odor trails invisible to us. We've learned that dogs almost see with their noses. Just from the smell, they know that a deer passed by here a week ago, or a bird died and decomposed here, or that another dog urinated here. When dogs urinate, they leave behind their own scent. This is called marking. By smelling the urine markings of other dogs, a dog can tell the marker's sex, age, and maybe even if the marker was in good health. There are still many wolves in the wild. They hunt in teams and live in an ordered pack. They're cared for as pups, but as they grow, the younger and weaker animals don't eat until the stronger pack leaders have eaten. The pack members follow the lead of the top wolf, who's called the alpha wolf. Even the pups' play obeys the hierarchy of the pups in the group. Dogs are usually obedient to their masters, who take on the role of the alpha wolf. Dogs have transferred their loyalty to humans. After 60 days, this Irish Terrier gives birth to 4 healthy pups. Except for differences in color, all newborn puppies look almost exactly alike. They have sausage-shaped bodies, closed eyes, and closed, pointed ears. But the similarity doesn't last long. Within a few weeks, the puppies begin to look more and more like their parents. Greyhounds grow to be long and lean. Corgis become short-legged and stocky. Most other dogs are somewhere in between. Deep down, though, dogs are basically the same. So, if you have a dog in your house, you have a wolf in your living room. Because all the different types of dogs developed from wild wolves. The wolves who joined the humans. Dogs developed from wolves. Cats developed from a creature that looked a lot like this Linsang. They were small and acrobatic, and they hunted in trees using their good hearing and vision. Other cats are related to this early ancestor. From the striped tiger in the wild to the cat that sits in your lap at home. Cats have some strange and special features. Have you ever noticed when a cat licks you that its tongue feels like sandpaper? You can't see them on its tongue, but you're feeling little fleshy hooks called papillae. They help cats clean meat from animal bones. All cats have the teeth of a predator, many perfectly suited to their prey. From the early cat have come a lot of different cat-like animals that spread to most parts of the world. Different types can look very different from each other, just like you and your cousins can look different from each other. Cats can be very large, like this 13-foot Siberian tiger that weighs 900 pounds, to the tiny black-footed cat, 19 inches long and just 28 ounces in weight. Different types of cats also behave in different ways. Leopards are shy and secretive. They like to hang out in trees, and they often attack their prey from there. Tigers always strike from behind where their prey can't see them. They can move through the forest in total silence. Woodcutters in Asia must watch out for tigers while they work. But woodcutters have come up with a way to fool the tigers. They wear face masks in reverse. A tiger can't sneak up on you if it thinks you have eyes in the back of your head. The cheetah, the fastest animal on Earth, has some very special features. The bones in its spine work like a spring that helps push it forward. It can get up to 70 miles per hour in just a few seconds. That's faster than most cars can accelerate. The cheetah's huge tail helps it move through sharp corners at high speeds. The tail balances the cheetah so it doesn't wipe out. Unlike other cats, cheetahs' claws don't pull into their paws. They dig into the ground like running spikes. And the pads on their feet have a tread like your sneaker. It gives cheetahs extra grip. But even with all these special features, the cheetah sometimes gets thrown for a loop. Lions are the largest of the African cats. They are very powerful and hunt big grass eaters like zebras and gazelles. But they'll eat insects and they'll eat giraffes. Lions can eat up to 80 pounds of meat at a time and not eat again for a week. They are the only cats that live in close family groups called prides. The lion is called the king of the jungle. It's easy to see why. Only the top cats can lounge around like this without fearing attack. Lions are unique cats because the males and females look so different from each other. Males have furry manes and females don't. This female lioness seems to be hidden in the grass. Her ability to blend into the surroundings is called camouflage. The lioness does most of the hunting. She often brings food for the male. Her hard-to-see coat helps her hide while she hunts. But even she doesn't always get her prey. So why does the male lion have a large furry mane? It doesn't help him blend in or hunt. It doesn't help him in a fight. In fact, it could get in the way. The lion's mane is a special feature. Certain scientists and artists are trying to figure this out.
Get a real reaction out of the lions when they see it.
This scientist and toy maker are working on an experiment. They've created realistic stuffed lions with different kinds of manes. These toy lions are traveling to the Serengeti Plains in Africa. In this experiment, the toy lions are identical, except that one has a shorter, lighter colored mane, and the other has a longer, darker mane.
Okay, Fabio, you're on.
The lions are left in the open, and the researchers back off to see what happens. After a while, the lionesses come to investigate the new males. All the lionesses are more interested in the male with the longer, darker mane. The scientist believes the females are attracted to the bigger mane because it's a sign of strength and good health. In the wild, males who lose fights also tend to lose their manes because the fur falls out. A male who has a big mane has not lost a fight in a long time. The lionesses probably prefer the dark color because it's a sign that the lion is well fed. In the wild, the female's choice to mate with a male that has a big dark mane means that her male cubs will probably grow up to have manes like his. And like their fathers, the cubs, male or female, will also have a better chance of being ferocious fighters.
To complement dogs and cats, TLC Elementary School suggests the following activity. Dogs do many jobs to help people. Research and share information about working dogs, such as search and rescue dogs, seeing eye dogs, and police dogs. Lions live on the Serengeti Plains and many other places in Africa. Where do their cousins, the tigers, live? Create a map showing the locations of these two big cats. Include facts such as adult size, lifespan, and diet in the display. Segment 4. Orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees.
This ape has a cape of orange hair. The orange color helps you remember that this is an orangutan. Orangutans tend to be loners. They're shy and don't like being disturbed. Here's the mighty male gorilla pounding his chest. This gorilla looks like he's about to fight. There are about 50 chimpanzees in a community. They interact constantly, and the pace can be hectic. This chimp isn't smiling. Chimps grin like this when they're nervous. Orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees. They're known as the great apes, and they're closely related to each other. All life is related. If you wanted to think about all the life on the whole Earth, you could think about it like it was a tree. At the base of the tree is single-celled life, like algae and bacteria. Different limbs stand for different groups of life, like plants, funguses, and animals. Here's our own branch, mammals. This is also where the great apes fit on the tree. Though close relatives, each has its own habits and unique appearance. Orangutans live in Asia, where they spend much of their time up in trees finding the fruit they like to eat. Even though they're orange, they can be hard to spot in the wild. Their untidy hair helps them blend in. And sometimes they just sit in the same place for hours. Males have wide cheek pads on their faces and a special pouch hanging down from their throats. They use the pouches to yell, warning other animals to stay out of their territory. Full-grown males are about 4.5 feet tall and about 200 pounds. Females weigh only half as much as males and don't have any cheek pads or throat pouches. The strongest bond in an orangutan's life is with its mother. Orangutans' feet have long curved toes that look like fingers. They move slowly and carefully, using their feet like a second pair of hands to help them along. They always have at least 3 separate holds on branches so they don't fall, even if a branch breaks. Sometimes they use their weight to swing through trees, like Tarzan. Orangutans look clumsy when they're out of the trees. They walk on the outside edges of their feet, not flat on the ground. Unlike chimpanzees and gorillas in Africa, orangutans don't have the thick skin on the backs of their hands that helps them walk on their knuckles. Usually, this display is enough warning to end a possible gorilla fight over food, space, or mates. Gorillas don't fight very often. When they do fight, they bite, scratch, and slap each other. Their fights don't last long. The loser of this fight has nothing more than a bad scratch. This fight was won by the older male. He's called a silverback. His markings stand out in his natural surroundings. As male gorillas mature, they start to get silvery gray hair on their backs, and they lose their chest hair. One reason there are few gorilla fights is because each group has a strict order. It has about 20 members, and it's headed by a silverback. Gorillas are the largest of the great apes. The male is about 6 feet tall and 400 pounds. Females are a foot shorter and weigh half as much as the males. Next to the silverback, the most important members are the females with young, then the females without young, then the young. Sometimes gorilla aunts babysit. The silverback tolerates the play of the young. He lets them crawl on him and follow him around. Most of them are his offspring, and he seems to be their hero. Gorillas mostly climb for food or to get a better view. Their big toes are long and help them grip when climbing, but they are often too big for the branches. Gorillas are vegetarians. Their food of fruit and leaves is all around them, and they spend much of the day eating. They are slow, noisy eaters. After a big meal, gorillas often sit back and make a sort of happy singing noise. They can be fierce fighters, but mostly gorillas are quiet, peaceful animals. The chimpanzee's grim grin makes us a little uncomfortable. Like people, chimps communicate through body language. Staring is a threat. A fearful chimp may crouch down or bob up and down in front of a more powerful chimp. Chimpanzees are as different from each other as people are from other people. You can even identify individuals by their own unique coloring. Their dark fur helps to camouflage them in the forest's shadows. They can be very noisy. We recognize more than 30 different sounds chimps make to communicate comfort, anger, fear, and other things. As you can probably tell, the members of chimpanzee communities are very social. But did you know they have lifelong enemies and lifelong friends? If friends meet after not seeing each other for a while, they greet with hugs, kisses, pats, and hoots. Close companions spend more time together and sometimes even hold hands. Chimpanzees are the smallest of the 3 apes. Most males are about 5 feet tall, but they only weigh about 100 pounds. Females are a little shorter and weigh a little less. Both sexes spend a lot of time both on the ground and in the trees, which they're a good size for. Chimps eat different kinds of fruits and plants. They're also carnivores. They're the only great apes who regularly eat small animals. As you might expect from such a social animal, chimpanzees search for food and hunt together. But the whole community doesn't do this. Small groups constantly come and go from the main community. Like the other great apes, young chimps are very attached to their mothers. Also like the other great apes, young female chimps are taught how to care for infants. Another kind of chimp in Africa is called a bonobo. Bonobos are thinner and have longer legs than common chimpanzees. Their bodies are different in other ways, including the hair on bonobos' heads that looks like it's been combed and parted down the middle. Bonobos are known to be more peaceful than the more muscular common chimps. We didn't develop from these great apes. But they're our closest living relatives. We have things in common. Like humans, apes nurse their young. Like us, they spend years raising them and teaching them their traditions. They sleep at night. They usually build a new nest each evening. They may even dream. Great apes look like they're much hairier than we are. But our hairs are just smaller. Like the protective layer on many animals, the hair on mammals is made of keratin. We used to think some of the apes were monsters. We chased them down in the forests, and we knew very little about them. We know more now. We've developed more respect for our closest living relatives. We study them to see if we can communicate with them. We've seen them use tools to get what they want. We wonder if they think like we do. In the future, we hope to learn whether this is true.
To complement orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees, TLC Elementary School suggests the following activity. Gather information from the video on the heights and weights of the adult males of these three great apes. Display this information on a mural painted with a full-size orangutan, gorilla, chimp, and a person your age. How many students your age does it take to equal each ape in height and weight? Invite a zookeeper to your class or take a field trip to your local zoo to find out how these great apes are cared for in captivity. Create a list of questions such as, what is the cost of caring for these animals? What are zoos doing to ensure the apes are being treated humanely?